So what were the findings, or at least the preliminary findings from this research? So again, the first research question is, how do my everyday emotion regulation strategies manifest themselves in the game? Well, the in-game behavior that we were able to measure was this stressful engagement, and we observed two things. First of all, there was a positive association between being more stressfully engaged, pushing that button over and over again, and the tendency to suppress in real-life situations. And we noticed the same positive correlation, even stronger, with a tendency to ruminate. This means that there's a relationship between someone's play style while they're playing a game, and the way they regulate their emotions in an everyday way. And I think this is also quite logical, because when we want to suppress an emotion, we need to occupy ourselves with something else, and performative behavior, it suits very well. Rumination also makes a lot of sense, because rumination refers to repeating a behavior over and over again. And that's essentially what they're doing by issuing the same command multiple times. So that shows some sort of a connection between their in-game behavior. Now, what about the fact that they're more physiologically aware? The first thing I want to mention is that participants were generally good at this task. So, or generally fair, I should say. We observed a small to medium-sized correlation that was highly significant. It means they were actually doing their job in recording their heart rate. The first thing that we observed was a positive association between being more physiologically aware and seeking support. So, going to others for advice. So, knowing where you're at, knowing that you need help, maybe in these game contexts, is associated with going to others when you need help. Second, we observed, actually, we weren't looking for this, but we also observed an association between this and these repeated behaviors which were associated with suppression and rumination, which seems to indicate that if you're behaving in a very stressed out way in the game, it becomes more difficult for you to predict your emotions. So the take-home message from these things is that we see that their physiological awareness was associated with both positive and negative behavioral patterns. Now, what's the take-home message of this whole study? Well, I think the lesson that we can learn from this is that games are not just all fun and games. These are stressful scenarios, and as game designers and as people interested in serious games and health, I think it's time that we looked at serious games as a platform to actually induce stress in a way that we're telling our people, here's the stress, now you have to overcome it, in a way that they learn how to do this in their everyday lives. Games, the best games out there are the stressful ones, and so it's up to the best designers out there, challenge is on you, to develop games that are stressful. I promised that I would mention some games that are already doing this, so I will fulfill that. The first is a really interesting game called Nevermind. Nevermind is a game that uses physiological feedback. Essentially, the way that the idea of the game is that you play a therapist that goes into the traumas of other players. And the only way that you can learn more about where these traumas came from and cure the patient is by surviving the stress in the game. Another really interesting game that you can check out is called Dojo. Dojo is a game that hooks you up with your fingers, it measures your heart rate, and if you're performing certain actions in the game and your heart rate is too high, it makes it more difficult for you to do, which is actually giving you the command of relax, bring that heart rate down. So it's a game designed to teach you these strategies. And recently, this is even featured on the BBC, so you can check this out. A game called Rage Control was designed for children with anger management issues, where if their heart rate became too high, it prevented them from completing the goals in the game itself. So, and they found that children that played this game afterwards were better able to manage their anger in other situations. And finally, this is a great part about going to conferences. I put this slide in last night. Yesterday I went to a talk from Robert Rice and his collaborators Stephen Jacobs and Lawrence Sugarman, and they're also designing a game for people with autistic spectrum disorder that's also giving the same message. Regulate those emotions down when you're feeling stressed. Change your physiology. Be in touch with how your body's telling you. So I want to thank you all for being here. And I also want to thank all the people that made this study possible. My supervisors, Isabel Granick and Rutger Engels. We were together at the Behavioral Science Institute at the Rabat University. A data collection was assisted by Michelle Failing, who's doing his PhD here at the FU. And our collaborators in Simon Fraser University in Canada. And tremendous help was from the organizers of this gaming tournament, which is now going nationwide, from Passel from the Dutch Starcraft League. If you like my slides, I'll be posting them all online. I'll be posting a link on my Twitter account. So yeah, you'll be feel free to download it. Thank you very much.